The most common response from people that I hear when I talk about privacy is, I have nothing to hide. When did privacy start being about having something to hide? It used to simply be about having the right to decide for ourselves who gets access to our data. But over the past decade or so, we've lost that choice. And so much of our personal and sensitive information is shared without our knowledge or explicit consent. Somehow we've become okay with this because the narrative around privacy has also shifted. Those who wish to surveil us keep telling us things like this.
If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear.
If you have something that you don't want anyone to know, maybe you shouldn't be doing it in the first place.
They've managed to convince us that privacy is a criminal act, while transparency is a virtue. But this narrative serves only those who benefit from the collection of our data. And the result is that it seeps so deeply into our subconscious that the knee-jerk reaction to overreaching surveillance for many has become, I have nothing to hide. This phrase not only diminishes the importance of privacy, but it normalizes a dangerous invasion into our lives that we should not be okay with. So if we want to reframe the narrative, we have to know how to respond whenever someone says this. In this video, I want to give you a list of arguments that you can use to persuade people to change their mind about privacy and understand its importance. Let's start with our fundamental understanding of privacy. It's not about hiding, it's about consent. It doesn't mean being secret about everything you're doing. It means having the ability to decide for yourself what information to share and with whom. We don't have to put up with everyone knowing all of our business all the time. We can make better choices, denying permissions when we don't consent. And wherever possible, we can ditch the services that harvest user information and hide what this data is actually used for, and instead choose services that respect their users. We can also reclaim the right to decide what information businesses get from us when we do use them. If they ask for our name, email, phone number, or billing address, we actually have more control over what data gets handed over than we realize. We don't have to have one email address, one cell number that we hand out to every random merchant. By using email aliases, VoIP numbers, and masked credit cards, we can limit how much of our information is exposed. Next, we may not have anything to hide, but we have everything to protect. Many people don't realize that the harvesting of personal information can lead to real-world consequences, and that privacy is about protecting ourselves. The more information about us that we give away, the easier it is for hackers and scammers to target us. We don't just give our home address to every stranger we meet in person, yet for some reason we give over our address readily when we sign up for a service from strangers on the internet or pay for something online. Let's say that you purchased some kind of a safe for valuables, or a crypto hardware wallet, or an expensive watch, and gave your home address. Someone now knows exactly where to find you and what kinds of valuables will be in your home. This data is not just used to physically target us, but can also be used to manipulate us and make us think in certain ways.
If you're collecting data on people and you're profiling them, that gives you more insight that you can use to know how to segment the population.
Companies themselves might use our information in ways we don't understand, but they're also terrible at protecting our information from hackers. Limiting how much information we let companies collect from us allows us to protect ourselves from these threats. Did you know that by using a masked credit card, you can enter any name and billing address, and your transaction will still go through? And if you need to have something delivered, instead of handing out your home address, you can use a PO box or a private mail forwarder. These are all super easy to set up, do wonders for your privacy, and make you less vulnerable. The phrase, "I have nothing to hide," doesn't just miss the point. It's actually harmful in a world where surveillance and data leaks have profound consequences. So every time you shop online or sign up for a service, have a think about your privacy and what information they actually need before you hand it over. I have nothing to hide hide might also be a coping mechanism for those who think that privacy is dead. They dismiss the importance of privacy because they feel that the situation is hopeless.
I think privacy is dead. I actually think it doesn't matter at all.
Let me assure you, privacy is not dead. There are countless ways to protect your information and reduce your digital trail. The narrative that privacy is dead is not only false, but dangerously defeatist. It disempowers individuals, and it serves only the interest of those who want to spy on us, discouraging us from even trying to protect ourselves. Privacy is very much alive. It's a choice that we can make, and we're fortunate to have the tools to make better ones. Then there's the fact that your data is forever. It's a liability that just keeps growing and growing. Today, you feel that you have nothing to hide, but understand that the information collected about you today, including your habits, preferences, location, and communications, will still exist decades from now. All it takes is one vindictive individual with access to this data, like an ex-partner, a disgruntled employee, or a rogue actor, for your digital information to become weaponized against you. Data permanence is a ticking time bomb. It's only a matter of time before the information you allow to be collected falls into the wrong hands. Limiting that collection by exercising your right to privacy is important. Another response that you can give people is simply, it's not about you. Anyone who dismisses the importance of privacy because they feel that they have nothing to hide misses the point about the broader societal need for privacy. Whistleblowers, activists, human rights workers, and investigative journalists all need privacy to do their work safely. Honestly, I have nothing to hide is an embarrassing kind of virtue signaling. It's the perspective of someone who has never faced injustice, lived under oppression, or been marginalized in society, of someone who's lucky enough to feel comfortable existing within the norms that society has forced upon them. It's a revealing admission that they've never had to challenge the status quo, and never plan to. By dismissing the importance of privacy, they ignore the countless people for whom privacy is a matter of life and death. People who are actively protecting the very society that we feel so comfortable in.
One of the first reporters to blow the whistle on phone hacking in the UK has been found dead outside of London.
The Pegasus spyware scandal showed how governments exploit surveillance to silence dissent. Journalists and activists have been tracked, intercepted, and spied on simply for speaking out. Jamal Khashoggi's assassination is a stark example. Surveillance enabled his killers to monitor his movements and communications, turning tools meant for security into weapons of control. In Mexico, countless journalists have been killed for exposing corruption, aided by technologies that allowed governments and cartels to track them and dismantle their networks. Instead of protecting their citizens, many governments weaponize technology to silence those who dare to expose corruption or speak truth to power.
Your life can be rewound and your secrets can be revealed.
Privacy is essential if we want to protect those who are fighting to make our society better. Let's not surrender those doing important work to the pervasive surveillance around us. Let's fight to carve out private spaces for everyone, whether or not we feel that we personally need those spaces ourselves. Then there's the reality that the future is uncertain. You don't know how your data will be used and who will control it. The claim, "I have nothing to hide," assumes that you'll always fit within society's norms. But laws and governments change, and what's acceptable today could be criminalized tomorrow.
What was the famous Soviet totalitarian joke attributed to Lavrenti Beria, head of the secret police? Show me the man and I'll show you the crime.
Your permanent data is a treasure trove of intimate details that could be weaponized against you or your children.
I personally don't want all of my conversations with an AI to be stored forever by a central party, to be offered up to the government as soon as they ask for it.
Hoping that bad actors don't rise to power is not a safety plan. Surveillance infrastructure rarely disappears. And the problem isn't just its existence, it's the unchecked power that it gives to whoever controls it. This is why we must push back when those in power seek to expand surveillance. We need to ensure that these technologies aren't used to erode freedoms, silence dissent, or target the vulnerable. privacy is the only safeguard against today's national security measures becoming tomorrow's tools of oppression.
What if a new regime came into power in your country that starts arresting people like you? It would be too late to start caring about your privacy then, wouldn't it?
Protecting privacy starts with being mindful of the data that we allow to be collected today, but it's also about securing the right to privacy for the future. Governments worldwide are trying to ban end-to-end encryption and mandate backdoors in private communications. If we dismiss the importance of privacy now and ignore these attacks, we risk losing it forever, for ourselves and for future generations. But it's not just a question of some possible future that we're safeguarding ourselves against. The fact is, current surveillance is already stifling creativity and dissent. When people know they're being watched, they censor themselves. It's human nature. We all adjust our behavior when we feel that we're under scrutiny. We stop exploring controversial ideas, questioning authority, or sharing dissenting opinions. Even harmless creativity can feel risky under a watchful eye. This isn't a theoretical concern. It's a well-documented phenomenon known as the chilling effect. People hesitate to innovate or express themselves freely when there's a fear that their words or actions are monitored and could be misinterpreted or used against them.
Today, in parts of China, in parts of Russia, or indeed in Iran, people are very cautious about having conversations in the street. They will have private conversations in places where they don't think they're going to be overheard. They don't feel free to voice their opinion.
Privacy isn't about hiding. It's about safeguarding the conditions necessary for a thriving, innovative, and free society. Without it, we risk stagnation and conformity, where fear of judgment or reprisal dictates every choice we make. Next, when someone asks, "What have you got to hide?" it frames privacy as something shameful. It forces people to justify wanting it, as if privacy is only for criminals and not something that normal, law-abiding individuals should have. It's an easy tactic to justify stripping away privacy. Frame surveillance as essential for catching bad guys or protecting democracy. No one wants terrorists or criminals to cause harm, but surveillance tools are never confined to their original purpose. They start with criminals, expand to include broader potential threats, and eventually target anyone who challenges the status quo. This mission creep is inevitable. History has proven it time and time again. If you think privacy isn't important now, imagine a world where it's gone entirely. This isn't about criminals, and the average person shouldn't have to justify wanting privacy. Privacy is normal. Now there's the fact that our individual choices when we disregard privacy actually affect others. I recently interviewed an activist from Bahrain who faced a difficult situation with school friends. They insisted on using non-private messaging platforms to connect with her and believed that privacy didn't matter because their conversations weren't about anything important. They didn't understand that any information leaked on these insecure platforms could be used to target her. So she unfortunately had to cut ties with many of these people because their choices were putting her in danger. Choosing private messaging options matters for those we communicate with, but there are all kinds of personal choices that affect others. Did you just download an app that requested access to all of your contacts and you didn't care because you have nothing to hide? Well, you've just shared the personal phone number, home address, birthday, and all kinds of other private information with countless entities when it wasn't yours to give away. What about email? Well, by insisting on using a non-private email provider, you're allowing every private email that your friends send to you to be analyzed and added to profiles about them, whether they want them to be or not. Posting photos on social media to show where you are throughout the day? Well, anyone captured in the background of your photos is also identified using facial recognition and AI. And what if you don't post them publicly, but just automatically back up your photos to a non-private cloud storage like Google Drive? Google AI knows exactly where you took it, who's in it, what you're doing, even your relationships. By not protecting yourself, you also expose your family, friends, and colleagues. Privacy isn't just an individual choice. It's about respecting other people's privacy boundaries and choices, and understanding that they may have different threat models to you. Finally, you might not have anything to hide, but your choices can make a huge difference in the future that we're building. Choosing privacy-focused companies says this matters. It creates demand for privacy tools, encourages innovation, and signals to developers, companies, and policymakers that privacy is important. It improves options for everyone. Conversely, continuing to use companies that harvest your data reinforces the status quo. It pushes privacy-focused alternatives out of the market and sends the wrong message. Every dollar spent on companies that prioritize surveillance over privacy undermines the fight for better tools and misdirects resources to platforms that don't align with our values. But it's not just about market signals, it's also about inspiring others. When your friends and family see you using Signal instead of SMS, or Brave instead of Google, they start to ask questions. They see that privacy isn't just for paranoid people. It's a practical, achievable, and necessary part of modern life. Our choices create a ripple effect and show people that privacy is normal and should be taken seriously. If we want to shift the trajectory of tech towards respecting individual freedom, it starts with us. Choosing privacy isn't just a personal decision. It's a vote for a future where our rights are protected, not stripped away. When people say, "I have nothing to hide," instead of leaning into the privacy tools around them, it ignores the role that we all play in shaping the future of society. Surveillance is a weapon that can and will be used to silence opposition, suppress individuality, and enforce conformity. Privacy is what allows us to think, act, and connect without fear. Without privacy, we lose the ability to dissent, to innovate, and to live freely. It's not just about protecting ourselves. It's about ensuring that freedom remains possible for everyone. You don't have to overhaul your life in one day. Start small, make mindful choices, and know that every step that you take contributes to a larger movement to reclaim privacy for everyone.
Most Americans don't want freedom. They want security.
They don't even know they've made that bargain.
The next time someone says, "I have nothing to hide," remind them of this. Privacy isn't about hiding. It's about protecting your rights, your choices, and your future. And it's a fight that we can't afford to lose. NBTV is a project of the Ludlow Institute, a non-profit that researches and presents the latest in tech privacy. Help us shift culture around privacy. Visit nbtv.media/support to set up a monthly tax-deductible donation. And don't forget to check out our merch shop for cool t-shirts like this one. What's that quote from a Naomi? "It's not that I have anything to hide, it's that I don't have anything I want you to see." It's a good one too.